Okay, thank you. Okay, let's call the meeting to order for July 23rd, Polk County Commissioners Court. It's 10 a.m. If you have not already done so, would you please silence or mute any cell phones or other devices? At this time, we'd like to ask for Mike Meadows from Central Baptist Church to lead us in prayer.
Let us pray together. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this cool front you've sent our way. We thank you for this community that we get to call home. And God, I pray for these that have taken on the task of overseeing many aspects of our community. Pray that you would give them wisdom and discernment beyond their ability, and that, God, you would care for this community. And God, especially today, I'm mindful of the Williams family and the Big Sandy community. God, as they grieve in the midst of this horrible tragedy, may your comfort and peace be upon them. May we rally around them as a community to support them in their time of loss. And God, we just thank you so much for your grace that is sufficient in all circumstances, even this one. And God, once again, I just thank you for this town, this community, this place we call home. May you bless this land, and may it prosper for your name's sake. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, public comments. Has anybody signed up?
No, ma'am.
Item number 3, informational reports. Do we have anyone that wishes to give a report? Nope. Item number 4, new business consent agenda. You have an addendum on B in the amount of $157,323.28. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody would like to remove? Okay, then can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Purvis, second Commissioner Vincent. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Obviously, we're skipping 5. Becky must have taken something out and went on to 6. So, item number 6, consider approval of personnel matters as follows. You have the preliminary listing on the PAS that were submitted today. At this time, we have 3 emergency hires, 2 of them in the Sheriff's Department and 1 of them in the jail.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Overstreet.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Willis. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 6B, receive letter of resignation and dissolution of contracted services from Barbara Hayes, Medical Services Incorporated, and consider any and all necessary action regarding aging and social services departments. Ms. Hayes, she's done a wonderful job for the county for several years. You want to speak to the court? No. Okay. Then correct me if I say anything different than what you're recommending. She is recommending that we separate the aging and the social services departments, and that we have 2 department heads assigned to those. They are already included in our book where we have all the job descriptions, so they're already included in there. The job descriptions were actually done by Ms. Hayes when we did our salary survey, anticipating what she would recommend when she left. It will not be effective until October 1st. And so the question is, how would the court like to proceed? We're going to have basically 2 people to hire.
Well, already got people in those places, really.
Potentially, you do, yes, sir.
Right.
So do you want to assign Barbara to lead the committee that interviews people?
Works for me.
Sounds good.
Any objections to that? Very well. Okay, well, I know you're still going to be around, but officially we thank you for the long-standing contract services that you've provided.
Well, I thank the court, I guess.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. I knew she would.
I knew, yeah.
I knew she would eventually. Oh, careful.
Excuse me.
He's tripping her.
And no, I haven't had anything to drink this morning. I will miss everyone, but it's time to go. I turned 70 and little medical issues, so I'm going to take time to go to, I'm going to move to Georgetown, where my son and family lives, and be with my grandchildren, who I not often see very often, you know. But anyway, when I was brought here by Commissioner's Court, I thought, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? Especially with aging, because I didn't even know what Meals on Wheels were. And but all of us working together, and as I've stressed before, it takes a village to restructure those types of departments. And with all of your help, with starting with Judge Thompson, those commissioners that has gone before us to heaven, and I will miss all of you, and everyone that helps me, whether it's treasurer's office, the auditor's office, judge's office, you commissioners, big backers. I appreciate whether you would tell me I did some, no, you can't do that, and yes, you can. I really appreciate you commissioners, and I have trained people. I told the judge that everything, all of my knowledge, I will dump out on the desk for them, and I have done that so far. We have a little ways to go, but I appreciate all that y'all have done for me. I'll always carry you in my heart, because it's just a very special place in Polk County. And I go to Georgetown and I said, well, I can't live in this big town, so I'm looking outside for a small town and try to fit it like Livingston and Polk County is. And I've enjoyed my work, and I'll miss it. And God bless all of you in your future endeavors.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Miss
Same
Barbara.
to
Thank
you.
you, Barbara.
Okay, item number 7, consider request for revisions and/or amendments to the budget as follows. You have the FY 2019 budget revisions and amendments as presented by the County Auditor's Office, and you also have an addendum in the amount of $3,065.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Willis, second Commissioner Purvis. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, consider approval of resolution in support of the expansion of I-14. That's the Gulf Coast Strategic Highway System, the forts to ports, and I believe the I-14 Coalition asked Commissioner Overstreet to be on that board.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak?
Yeah, this is a resolution going to sit to Senator Corning and Cruz in support the counties that this highway affects, to support federal legislation to keep this thing continue to go. It's starting in the western edge of Texas, out in the Permian Basin, and working back this way in segments at this time. So,
To Louisiana, right?
yeah, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, all the way through. So, one of these days, in someone's lifetime around here, there might be an I-14.
Not ours.
But you know, it's the future. We all understand the traffic situation here and whatnot.
Just wondering if everybody else is in support of it, though, when it goes to taking their land and everything else.
Well, we'll
Well-
have to work around that.
That's gonna be, I mean,
Like I say, that's not gonna be our problem, it's gonna be we in the future, we won't be here when
Yeah.
that happens.
I mean, it's like right now they're talking, if there's anything happens in our immediate future be segments like loops, things like that. That's what it'd be. So
Okay, does that come as a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second, Commissioner Rinsey. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ain't got to worry about telling them anything like the loop they've been talking about around Cargill. They've been waiting on it 25 years.
We've been waiting longer than that. I was pregnant with Matthew when they first started talking about it.
Yep.
Matthew's 35 years old.
Y'all gonna have that in the next 3 or 4 years. But
Any minute now. Okay, item number 9, discuss and consider approval of options for proceeding with lease on county-owned property located at 410 East Church Street, Suite A, Livingston, Texas, currently occupied by Man Eye Center. The copies of the Second Amendment to the lease and the proposed modifications were included in your packet for review, and Commissioner Purvis and Commissioner Overstreet are the ones that represented us.
So moved.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Purvis, second Commissioner Overstreet. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, discuss and consider any and all necessary action regarding interlocal agreement between Polk County and the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles relating to the state's provision of vehicle registration equipment. That also covers the expectations and responsibilities of both the county and the department related to the issuance of the equipment. Is Leslie here?
Which is,
Anyway, it's the standard information that replaces the contract that we currently have already with them. So it's a standard state contract.
so moved.
Second.
Commissioner Purvis, second Commissioner Overstreet. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, consider any and all necessary action regarding bid number 2019-18, preposition contracts for disaster debris removal. Courtney? Bids were received and they were reviewed by the evaluation committee on July 22nd, and Courtney has their recommendation.
Good morning. Based on the evaluation scores and price, the recommendation is to award a primary contract to D&J Enterprises and a secondary to Crowder Gulf.
Anyone have any questions for Courtney?
These, where are these located? Are these the ones that's in Alabama?
Yes, sir. Alabama.
Which at first I wondered why we weren't going closer in terms of Texas.
That's what I'm
But
wondering.
really, if we're in crisis, lots of Texas is going to be in crisis.
I think most all of them they're from the east of us. The one that was local, close to us,
He didn't score very well. I don't know how they scored.
he didn't have a price schedule sheet in his packet. And they're that's 15 points right off the bat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, their packet wasn't complete,
No.
was the problem.
Yeah, I mean, but I just was curious, as, you know, these people are, but they're no problem with them getting here and,
No, sir.
I mean,
Most of them respond within about 24 hours of notice to proceed. That's pretty typical.
In their packets, Milt, they had to where they had worked all around us. I mean, they moved in. I mean, it wasn't like they stay over there. I mean, it's even the ones from here go to Florida and everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's just back and forth. So, but yeah, these had responded here during all that stuff down south. So, kind of mundane the way they do this thing.
yeah. I mean, I say it don't cost us nothing anyway, as long as don't nothing happen.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, as long as nothing don't happen.
Okay, no, I'm fine with it. I would just,
Yeah. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Overstreet.
second.
Second, Commissioner Purvis. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 12, consider approval for Office of Emergency Management to submit a community wildfire protection grant application to the Texas Forest Service to update the Polk County Community Wildfire Protection Plan. Anybody have any questions for Courtney on what that means? It's a $10,000 grant, and they would be used to purchase the GIS software that would help volunteer fire departments and emergency management respond.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Overstreet. Who was my second? Commissioner Vincent. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, consider approval to advertise requests for proposals for vehicles. Basically what we're asking for is that we start getting proposals, because in the 2019 budget, the estimates that we were given were 10% higher than the original estimate. And since once again we have multiple requests for vehicles, then we thought if we could go ahead and say that we're going to request for proposal, then at least we would have some solid numbers for budgeting purposes.
So moved.
Okay, we have Commissioner Purvis, second Commissioner Vincent. Any further discussion or questions?
No, that don't mean we're gonna buy them, it just.
No, that means we're just gonna ask, what would it cost, so that we have solid numbers for our budget.
Yes, ma'am, I'm ready. That's good.
And then the court will decide which vehicles we are or are not going to purchase, but at least we'll have accurate numbers for you. Okay, any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 14, discuss Sheriff's Office request for updating radio communications and available options. Chief Lyons submitted the request on behalf of the Sheriff's Office. We have gone through, and the court will have to decide how they wish to proceed from here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If you would indulge me just for a few moments, I've placed a packet on your desk before the court started. Basically, just wanted to bring to the attention of the court that we are in a communications crisis. Our radios, since I guess 2017, have been faulty and have been going down. Our communications is very important throughout the county, because we provide for communications or dispatching for at least 12 different agencies, and we have had a problem being able to keep our communications up. We have identified that we've used, I guess, a couple of different agencies or different vendors to try to rectify the problem, but still today we are still dealing with that issue of communications. Our communications have been failing over the past years, and we have been, I guess you say, patching the equipment, for lack of better words, with no real source of quality repairs. The current consoles that we have were consoles that were purchased through a grant process from DETCOG about 4 years ago. At the time, we had telex consoles, and we'll say that we were steered toward purchasing what we have now, which is the Stargates. We purchased 3 Stargates, and not just us, but a lot of the other agencies within our COG as well purchased the Stargate consoles. And to date, there have been several, not just us, but several different agencies within our COG who have also had being plagued with these same problems. 3 of them that I know of actually replaced their consoles. Livingston PD is at this point now working on their repeaters and voters, hoping that will fix their issue. Because of this is placing our officers, and not just the Polk County Sheriff's Office, but its officers, but as deputies, but as well as all the agencies that we provide dispatch for. It's putting those officers, as well as the community, it's putting those lives in danger of them going out trying to either respond, seeking help, or being able to go out and answer the calls that have been being dispatched to. If you would, I'd like to be able to just play a couple of videos of some instances where we've had some problems. I don't know if maybe cut one of the lights out.
That's much right there.
Yes. Robert!
This is a situation where Officer Devil
You need to come down,
was
man.
trying to arrest
I'm fixing to call other units with a canine.
who had called up in the attic on the shooting at the store. After falling through the ceiling,
Turn around, get on your back. Turn around. Turn around, you can get your face again. Get on your stomach. On your stomach, put your hands behind your back.
this was back in 2016.
Put your hands behind your back and get on your belly.
What happened? I'm scared of you, bro.
All right. Hey, turn around. Do not look at me. Do not look at me.
Right, can you give me
This whole time, this fugitive
Do not look at me, man. Do not look at me.
Officer Devil was driving by and happened to see him in the store and was unable to get help from him.
We got to get out back in. Get on your stomach.
Bro.
Hey, 24/7.
You will see that was one of 3 different occasions where he tried reaching us on radio.
Hey, 24/7.
What do you mean to do it?
Huh? Get on your belly. Get on your belly.
I'm trying to clean. Ew, that's what you want me to do.
Get on your belly. You're fixing to get tased again.
Oh, man, that hurts.
Get on your belly.
Bro.
Hey, 24, so send me EMS. Charlie, taser deployed.
Sorry, dude.
Still unable to reach dispatch.
No, get on your stomach. I want you to look at me. Get on your stomach. All right, get on your stomach.
Come on,
Hey,
Come
get on your
on,
stomach.
you can put me in cuffs here. All right, just let me go, please.
Get on your stomach.
Please let me go, right? Just stop, right? Clear, please.
Thank goodness there was a
All right, get on your
who
stomach.
stepped in
Hold
to
on.
assist Officer Devil was able to bring the
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Get on your stomach.
Clear, right?
Get on your stomach.
This situation was one that was pretty rough back in 2017. Corporal Sanders, who was here with us now,
Now! Put it down! Right now! I-35 leaves a shot fired!
the suspect was shooting an AR-style rifle at Corporal Sanders and the subjects there at the house that included several little children. Radios were not working.
I-35 leaves the shot fired!
As you see, he was able to retrieve his telephone, dial 911. Placed his phone to his service to his earpiece.
I-35 leaves the shots fired! Shots fired! 835! Shots fired! No!
Through Officer Sanders' training and experience, he was able to fend off that subject from being able to come in there to kill those subjects at the house as he had been threatening to do. Thank God that he was not injured as well. The actual vehicle received several different shots. This is where a subject, 2 different occasions where the radio wasn't working, had to hold the actual radio up in the air just to be able to try to reach communications, and still didn't get out. This was where a subject was arrested up in the north end of the county, who actually just refused any commands from the deputy, Davalos. He had actually physically dragged the subject closer to his vehicle to where he can get on his phone as well to call for assistance. There have been several different occasions where we've had lights, please. There have been several different occasions, even as recent as last week, where we've had pursuits and vehicle and foot pursuits, where we've actually had to, we didn't have any radios at all. One in particular I was involved in, where Lieutenant Lowry called me on his phone and I was the closest unit, and I was able to go over and try to help. He had 2 subjects, one running and one hiding in the vehicle. And so it shows you that these are situations that could really go bad because these guys aren't able to call out for any help. During our checking for our facts, we started preparing records of failures when it comes to our consoles and radios going down. This occurs for whatever reason, which causes problems for our officers in the field. Since 2017 through today, our radios have gone down 27 times. 2017 was 4 times, 2018 was 12 times, and to date, this year alone, and the year's not even passed yet, it's 11 times so far. As recent as Thursday night, the radios went down twice within just a couple of hours of each other. And we've had repairmen who came down and actually replaced it with a new repeater, which would have made the 3rd repeater placed in there within this month alone. And the equipment just it constantly goes down, and they really can't give us an answer on why. Stats, we've been able to keep them. During this time, we have had a total from 2017 to date, 347,413 radio transmissions. That's actual radio traffic. That's very crucial, very important to us. Like I said, not just to the Polk County Sheriff's Office, but to the troopers, game wardens, all the different agencies that we serve. In meetings, planning for a better service, in meeting with other sources or resources or vendors, we've been doing our best to try to get some quality communication, trying to replace the 3 consoles that we have. We would like to enter into a service contract with a repair server or with a vendor who would be able to provide us with a service contract to be able to come out periodically, make sure all the upgrades are being kept up, that if there are any issues that they can be able to get on top of them and get those things fixed quickly. We have had some estimate costs through one company, and they are under the buy board, and it was a little over $302,000 to replace the 3 consoles, repeaters and voters are out at the towers. We would like for in the future for in our budget talks, because I think would be beneficial for entire communications to be able to erect a tower. I think as we have a tower that's here on the ground, I've been speaking with the judge about this, and as well as Commissioner Overstreet. I think that with the new communications there at the office and a new tower being able to be erected, and the price varies because of equipment that you would have to purchase, but somewhere in the neighborhood between on the tower, 150 and no more than 180, being able to erect a new tower. And I just think that our service contract, I think that our communication really needs to be revamped. I think that I am asking that the court really consider or work with us on trying to fix the problem that we have before we end up with actual loss of life.
With this, one question, I noticed that was handhelds they were using there. Is that a problem with the repeaters, or what's that problem with? On handhelds?
On the handhelds.
I know how they operate. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, because on handhelds, depending on where you are, if you're in what we call a low or dead spot, a lot of times those handhelds will not work regardless of where you are in those areas. But the problem we've been coming up with now is that not even the mobiles are working because the radio systems are just flat down. Either the repeater is out or the console is actually going down.
So is it mainly the tower that's the problem?
No, sir. It's going to be twofold. Out at the towers where we have the repeaters and the voters, which is both basically the same, but out at the towers we've been having where the actual repeaters have been going down. We've been given several different excuses on why they replaced them, put in loaners, had one rebuilt, brought back in, 2 days later it was down again. Everything from surge protectors to somebody trying to hack them. I mean, just all kinds of different things. In the actual dispatch center, the consoles, the issue we have with the consoles is that they've kind of changed from when we first started in law enforcement, where we went the big diodes and the little boxes. Now they're actually PCs. And basically, like with anything else with a PC, it's just any little thing could make them, will throw them off, or they outdate, for lack of better words. And so you have to constantly have these things upgraded. our consoles now are just, when they were purchased, we were told they were the best, but we found out that that's not true. And the problem is not having anyone who can fix them. One person says you can't fix it, another person comes in, and he kind of patches it together. But the problem is then several days later, and that console goes down again. So we're constantly rebooting, trying to get these systems up and keep them going. My problem is that when you're rebooting, I mean, you're completely turning that computer off. So there is no communication is going to take place with that PC or that console until it comes back up.
How many consoles do you have?
We have 3. We had 2 for the longest. Just got the one back. We've had a vendor out of Lufkin who has been working with us. He was able to patch it. Now he can't give a guarantee on how long it's going to be because it's outdated equipment. But he says that it's what we call a backup. It's sitting over in the back. One of the others is making noise, and he's sure that I guess you could say we got one good one that's not making noises or static or having issues. The second one is now making a whining noise that he's concerned about, and the others basically just, hey, I patched it. It's a backup. It'll work until it goes down.
If the console or the PC is in, working order, latest and greatest, and exactly what you need, what guarantees you that you'll have the signal to the handhelds?
Well, actually, it won't guarantee us that it will fix the issue with the handhelds. But at least if you're there, your mobile. There are very few spots in that the mobiles won't reach. But at least we'll know that if you can get to your vehicle, we know that you can be able to work on your mobile. I can't promise that now.
Y'all don't have a repeater from your handhelds back to your car, and then y'all's ain't set up that way?
Yes, it's just set up for the towers. So your handheld has to reach whatever tower and hope that line of sight or direct line of sight that it's going to reach and it's going to touch.
I thought y'all had a repeater on your vehicles.
Yeah, is there another option besides just handheld to the tower to the PC?
There are options to where you can have repeaters. I hadn't talked with Sheriff Rawls over in Newton County. He was supposed to be, I think in his grants, that's what he was wanting, to be able to put repeaters actually in the car, in each car. It just depends on who you talk to. Some says it works great, and some says it doesn't. I know that if we were able to get that tower, they're saying that will fix our issues with dead spots. But again, this is what they're telling us. I just know what we're working with now is just not working, and I'm afraid that I'm going to get that phone call one night that somebody, a deputy or civilian or someone is going to be hurt bad or worse, and it's going to be due to our communication.
How many consoles or PCs would be optimal for?
3. And we asked for 3 because what we're set up now for is 3. So we have 2 dispatchers at all times. Third console that when it gets busy or we have catastrophic events or we just busy like the narcotics guys come out and they're running their different events, then we'd be able to place that supervisor or someone else on that third console and it not disrupt the other dispatchers.
In discussion with other DETCOG counties that all had the same equipment, they have been having the same issues, so they recognize the fact that what they placed in there ended up not being the biggest and the baddest and the best, and that was Homeland Security money that was used with the original ones, I believe.
Has a sure enough reliable console or PC system been identified?
Yes, sir. I'm old school. And when I say this, because I come up under Motorola. That's just my preference, and has always worked and has been a working horse for us. We have looked at the Aztec from Crosspoint out of Houston, is who we've been talking with, who have been working with us hard to try to help us get things together, who has sent us a bid for Motorola. Invoice a bid for Motorola on replacing the equipment in the sheriff's office as well as the towers with Motorola equipment. And it's someone that we can actually be able to get a service contract with, that someone who will be able to come out and check out our equipment. The good thing, because it's PCs, and even out at the towers, they can remote in from there in Houston. So if we get something at 2 in the morning, we give them a call and say, well, hold on, stand by. they can remote into it and say, hey, look, you got an issue that I can't fix here. You want to go out and do something, or I'm gonna have to send somebody out to the tower. Again, I'm a Motorola guy because it has worked for us. We've tried different ones, Kenwoods, Icoms, Telex. We've tried them all, and it's like we've been running into a wall with them. I know Motorola's from long ago, and that's just what my preference is.
Is this new stuff, Byron, is it gonna work with your existing radios?
Yes, it will work with our existing radios. And the good thing about it is that a good portion of our radios now, especially in our vehicles, are Motorola, and that's what we've been purchasing since the last 2 rounds of vehicles, just putting Motorola's in them, thinking that maybe the Icoms were maybe the issue in the vehicles, but it wasn't. And gentlemen, and let me add this, and maybe, because I don't want anybody to feel like that I'm leaving something out. Debt card, in some time in the far future, not near, but in the far future, are looking at, trying to get together some grants to be able to help with this problem, because they see that talking with the other agencies within the college. My problem is that they don't have an idea. You're looking at least a year for anything being presented, and maybe even further before there's even any money dropped. My problem is that what happens between now and then.
Well, the Homeland Security money's not gonna be there like it was in the past anyway.
And it's not guaranteed.
I mean,
exactly.
we pretty much know that.
And Jessica actually spoke to DEDCOG, and they said that they weren't even considering radio communications at this time, that the next grant that they were actually targeting towers. So maybe we can take advantage of DEDCOG in terms of getting our tower put up. The tower that the county currently owns has been on the ground for 10+ years. At least, yeah,
Close to that.
10 years or more, waiting, for consideration or funding.
Yeah.
And so maybe that will give us an opportunity. So the question, I guess, for the court at this time is I'm assuming, which may be a large assumption, but I'm assuming that we need to move forward with some kind of consideration, because for the safety of our employees and the safety of our citizens. This was not brought up during the budget discussion, so it has not been added to anything. But if we could talk to the vendor, we could potentially add it on our capital projections, which only means that we could not pay anything until October 1st. They could proceed with the installation, right? But the first billing or the first payment would have to be October 1st or later.
Are y'all sure this is what you want, Byron? I mean, this is the first we've heard about it, so I just want to be sure that y'all done all the research into it that y'all need to do, that that this is going to be way better.
Yes.
And it's not going to,
No doubt
we're not
about
getting the same old thing for what we got. I mean, I got no problem with
No doubt about
safety and
this
all
is
that, but I mean, if we're going to do it, I want to be sure that we are getting what we need.
Well, and that's the other issue, is that if what the court's interested in is going out for RFPs for comparison purposes, then we can certainly do that also. But we do have someone that's on by board who he's contacting. So I just need to know how the court would like to proceed with this.
He knows way more about the radio than I do. I ain't
like
had
said,
one work up there in Carter since I've been here, so, and they got one that works, so I've got no problem with it. I just want to be sure that they're not rushing themselves. That's all. I mean, it don't matter to me.
And I'm not
but I
gonna
just
say
want to be
that
sure you're not rushing.
This has been a 3-year project, for us,
Okay.
that we've been working on, because it's been going on for 3 years.
Yes, sir.
And we've been trying to, listen to this vendor, that vendor, this vendor, and each one of these other vendors have basically just been leaving us alone. Just so be said nicely, just leaving us alone. Some of them, I think, some of the things they've done has been criminal, but that's for a whole nother day. But they have just left us out on a limb. And we've been talking to different ones for 3 years, working on trying to figure out where exactly is our issue, where our issue is. And that's why we came up with, instead of just saying, okay, let's just replace the repeaters, the police department's just gonna replace their repeaters and hope that takes care of their problem. Well, my problem is because we know for a fact we have multi failures. in dispatch and as well out at the towers. So we know we've got to work on replacing both of them. We could say, yes, let's just do the tower, let's do communication, and let's do just the dispatch and do all the console. But my problem is once you just do that, then that same repeater that's already gone down 11 times this year is still stuck to these new consoles that we put in.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm just curious. I just
Yes.
want to know that this is going to fix the problem.
Yes,
Yeah, that's good.
we feel very strongly
like
that this
it
is going to
needs to be
fix our
fixed.
problem.
And who are y'all using in Houston are y'all using them in Houston currently to work on y'all's radios?
Currently, and that's the problem.
That's what I know. I just had some radios done, so I know you call one and you go around in a circle trying to find somebody to work on your stuff.
And those have been some of the problems that we have basically been using Crosspoint, who've come down and trying to limp us along. But the problem is that the company or the vendor that was chosen for the card, rather, they have E.F. Johnson. And you can't work, you have to be an E.F. Johnson vendor. And unfortunately, at the time we didn't know that was only one E.F. Johnson vendor for this entire area. We found one in Dallas, but all they do is push you back to a guy in Houston, and then that guy in Houston pushes you right back to the guys in Lufkin who have been running you around this bucket. So that's why we had to step out of that, because all they did, this one guy had it, he shut that company down, started nutting how the same people, and then come down and work on our equipment. And it's just,
Yeah.
we've been limping this along, and I just don't want to limp it along until somebody dies, and then we're there.
Sounds like the maintenance portion of this thing is gonna be critical,
Yes, sir.
and it needs to be a pretty good contract.
Yes, sir.
And long-term.
And those are some of the things that we've identified with Crosspoint. Those guys came down with them one day and said, hey, look, this is an issue, this is an issue, this is an issue. But I can't fix it. You have to be E.F. Johnson to be able to fix it. And then trying to find E.F. Johnson for this area is just sends you back to the same people who've already been working on it for you.
So if they identify somebody that is who they want to use, that they have confidence in, are we going to be able to use them regardless of the price?
And the one company
The
that we
maintenance.
have, out of the one that we would like to use out of all the ones that we've talked to, they are on by board, Crosspoint.
I say we go forth with it and see if,
Yeah.
like you're saying, see if they will hold the bill till after October the 1st. They want to
Yeah, they
work
can
with
go
us
ahead
on
and start
getting
putting it in. We go ahead and do the contract and move forward.
Can we issue them a
I'm assuming
PO?
the gentlemen in the back are representing.
Yes, ma'am.
Can they,
Casey,
can
is
we?
that somebody that you've worked with? I mean, have you?
Where I've worked with them, they've actually fixed some of the other issues that the previous vendors couldn't fix. So they've actually, and free of charge, they did it free of charge. They didn't charge us anything to go fix it.
Can we issue a PO prior to the 1st though?
I don't believe so, no, sir.
Of October.
Everything would have to happen October 1st.
That's what I'm saying.
Come on up and speak, yes, sir. Come on up.
Come,
Excuse me. I work for Crosspoint Communications, a Motorola dealer. We have offices in Houston, as referenced in Deer Park.
would you like to
And
come
our
to the mic?
headquarters is in
Step on up to the mic.
Arlington. We also work in the surrounding entities, but we could issue what's called a letter of authorization. So as long as that is signed and dated with the bill to, ship to, and the terms of agreement, that's what could be executed to start the process. And the payment can be arranged at your leisure thereafter, whether it be October 1 or what have you. But generally, when ordering any of this equipment, you're looking at a 6 to 8 week turnaround. So that already takes us to September range, close to October. But as far as getting the process started, we can go forth with the letter of authorization, if that meets your needs as well.
I really appreciate
What you say,
the
Lee?
time, and really would love it if you would allow us to be able to move forward with this.
I'm like, I mean, it sounds.
You want to do a letter of authorization and go ahead and move forward, put it on capital projections?
What
That
do
way
y'all
it'll
think? I
happen?
think we should, I mean.
Well, if it was just us having a problem, it'd be a technician problem, but it's not just us having a problem, it's cog wide, so,
Yeah.
you know, they're all It was the, you know, it was kind of like the gateway system when they put it in here. Latest, greatest, biggest thing that was sent down from Homeland Security, and we were all gonna be able to talk on radios, telephones, and it never did work.
Yeah.
Now these consoles are the latest, greatest, and now they're not working. So we need to knock it down.
Makes your decisions.
Yeah, we need to knock it down a notch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do these last a while?
What's the lifespan?
On these Aztecs.
10 to 15 years.
That's better than 4 anyway, so yeah.
I've installed since 2012. I've only had one problem with 2 dozen installations.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so letter of authorization and to be included on capital projections.
yes, ma'am.
Is that coming as a motion, Commissioner Purvis?
Yes, ma'am.
Do I have a second?
Second, all those.
Commissioner Willis?
Thank you so
All in favor,
much.
say aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 15, discuss and take any and all necessary action regarding the Polk County Certified Retirement Community Program Administration. Copies of the application and guidelines were included for your review. If you will recall, this was one of the things we discussed, or we gave you the information last time on whether or not we wanted to continue in the CRC program.
I think the last meeting we discussed this, wasn't it the consensus that it really wasn't cost effective?
Yes, sir, and but it just needed to be an agenda item so that it would be official.
Okay, so
So does that come as a motion, Mr. Willis? Okay, Commissioner Willis, Commissioner Purvis, any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 16, consider approval of revised flood damage prevention order as recommended by permanent inspection supervisor. And a copy of the proposed order was also included for your review. Anybody have, Rebecca, you need to come on up in case anyone has any questions for you. Actually, I ended up attending the same meeting with Rebecca and Courtney that had to do with flood control and flood damage. And so some of these recommendations are based on what's coming from TDEM, from EPA, from everybody else that was present at that meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
A copy was put in there for you all to look at. Does anyone have any questions? Is there anything you want to point out specifically, Rebecca?
Well, I mean, basically, it's just to make all of Polk County be on the same page as far as our permits, our floodplain, because we know from Harvey, it's not just the floodplain areas that flooded, it's things outside the floodplain. So we just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And there was just a few changes in our order. Change it from just specific areas to all areas of Polk County. Establish a floodplain or a permit system, which we have now, but we don't separate the floodplain and regular development. So we're gonna have an A and a B permit. Basically, it's just, it's all in the packet.
Basically, if I'm going to build a structure in a floodplain, who's going to regulate that elevation?
That would be us.
And I've got to be 2 foot above floodplain
Right.
if I'm in a flood-prone area. Or
Correct.
In the floodplain.
If you're in
In
a
the
flood hazard area,
If-
you have to be at least, I mean, our order now is 1 foot.
Yeah.
2 foot is minimal for FEMA, NFIP. That's
Yeah.
what they're looking at now, is to go just a little bit higher. So that's what I wanted to change, was from 1 foot to 2 foot on all of our structures that are in the floodplain.
If I'm not in the floodplain,
If you're not in the floodplain, you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Right, right.
And some entities were even recommending 3 feet,
Yeah.
but in our case, we felt like 2 was appropriate.
Yeah, two is more of a general with all of our surrounding stuff.
Yeah, staying in line.
Houston's a little bit different. So theirs is a little bit higher.
They need to go to 5.
I believe they did.
I think they did.
Well, there's some
Yeah.
places here they need to be 5 foot that I see them sticking some stuff in nowadays, so.
So, you know, and we do that with an elevation certificate. And I've gotten with FEMA, and hopefully I'm gonna try to get a meeting with our surveyors, so we could be on the same page with them, because they're checking community determined elevations, which now we have some elevations from Harvey that we know here's our elevations, and we put that on our map thanks to Courtney and Miss Linda.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
Motion approved.
Motion to
Second.
approve, Commissioner Overstreet, second, Commissioner Vincent. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank y'all.
Okay, item number 17, discuss and consider any and all necessary action regarding the proposed no need for you to sit down, madam. Permit fee schedule to be included in the FY 2020 budget. These were the fees that we discussed previously and went back and forth on, and so here's basically the final draft, taking everybody else's recommendations into consideration.
And I know at the last one, there was a question on whether the court could do that, in which we did research that. And I believe it is in your packet,
Yes.
under subchapter 1, flood insurance. And that's where it gives the court the authority to set fees and administrative costs.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't have any problem with it except for the residential development.
Well, actually, that recommendation came from some of the people that are doing large developments.
Mhm.
This fee schedule, I just, we're gonna charge them this much money, and then once they get the house built, they're gonna pay taxes on it from now on. Rest of the
Well,
stuff, I don't have a problem with it, but I mean, the structure fee on a house, on residential.
It's $260, right?
No, for development, it's 125.
And then 50 each thousand after.
Yeah, so 1,500 square feet, which, I mean, if y'all wanna, that's just a general size of a house, which could be changed if y'all so see fit to. I mean, we could up that square footage.
I don't know, I mean,
What all do they bring you whenever they come to get that permit fee?
yeah, I mean,
Right now, just the permit application.
You go
And
out
they
and
tell us, well, it's gonna be about this many square feet.
But you go out and look and do a site evaluation?
No, sir, we just take it on their
Take their
word.
word.
I would love
Fire
to.
can't build a house in Polk County unless it gets a permit, huh?
Correct. Now, in the floodplain, that's where the difference comes in. If they're building in the floodplain, then I have to have all the designs. I have to have the house design, the elevation certificate, everything that shows. I mean, I would love to have that on all our houses, but.
Okay, now, what's the difference in this? Used to, you had to get a sewer permit before they'd hook electricity up.
Yeah, you had to go get a 911 fee.
911, development, and sewer. Now we do,
Now,
just
so
do the
why are we
911
charging for a
development.
permit too, because that's still coming back to us, right?
You go in there and get your 911, you pay for that.
Pay for that.
Then you have to get a
Well,
sewer.
if if you're not building anything, you're just gonna get electricity, you don't have to pay a sewer permit.
That's correct.
Yeah, you
Right.
don't have, but even if you don't have sewer, you're still gonna have to pay that $25 for that permit before they're gonna hook electricity up.
Yeah, that's the way it is now.
Right.
That's current.
Yeah. So what's this permit for?
That's for the sewage, the checking the elevations, floodplain, all that stuff.
This is for the sewer permit?
Yes, yes, sir.
You talking about the residential development?
Yeah.
No.
No, sir.
No.
The sewer permit is the OSSF fee.
Yeah.
And it's $260 right now. It's the same. We have a repair permit fee for $100. I would like to make that $130, just half of the residential. Our commercial right now is $310. I would like to change that, make it $360, just to make it more in line.
The surrounding area.
Yes, ma'am. And then the same on the repair, $100 for a commercial septic system. I mean, I think it should be a little bit more if we're doing an upgrade or something.
Well, how, if you're not, if we move this residential development up to 2,000 square feet, you're going on their word.
Right. Unless we can require them to submit the plan on the house. We sure can. And we can also attach that to their address.
Why can't we just come up with a flat rate fee on a house and not have added, you know what I'm...
Because what we were trying to do is not burden those people that cannot afford a huge house. And so if you have 1,500 square feet, then that's a lot different than 5,500 square feet.
Yeah, you could go 2,500 square feet and charge them $125 permit, and that'd cover a lot of them.
And that's up to you. If that's what you want to do, we can make that modification.
That would cover a lot of homes.
Yes, sir.
At 2,500 square feet.
And not worry about the additional?
No, just one cost.
Okay.
But I'm still just wondering why we're charging them a permit to build a house.
Because that's...
We're not charging them to put their sewer in.
Yeah.
We're charging them for 911. I mean...
And we're really not doing anything
We're not doing
except
nothing for their house. We're not going to inspect it.
We
We're
are,
not...
well,
So
It's
why-
development.
it's a development fee, which is basically what's going on everywhere. And it's so that you can monitor those sewage, those sewage discharge. Because we have had some cases where you had people whose sewage was discharging out into ditches, and going onto other people's property.
We hadn't had them. We still got them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got lots of them.
Well, and that's what we're trying to eliminate, because that's a health and safety issue.
I mean, if we have a development permit, then we know definitely that there's a structure going in on a piece of property.
Okay.
That way we can regulate.
Basically, the permit is making you aware that something's going on.
Yes.
So that she can go double check and make sure that they do have
Right.
an operating septic system that truly is a
And
septic system.
and we have some that will get a development permit because they're putting a house on a piece of property and they have an existing system. I have to go out and check to make sure that, yes, they have an existing system, but I don't guarantee that it's not going to fail. And they are notified that if it does fail, then you have to come in and get your
Make something
septic permit
operational.
and make it correct, bring it up to minimum state standards.
So Commissioner Overstreet, if they change it to 2,500 square feet, will that work? That takes care of the majority of people in Polk County.
And I dropped the fee back to at least down to $100. 125.
Are you saying, Tommy, that
I'd take 2,500 and about a $75 fee.
like I said, we feed them to death anyway.
Okay, if we do 2,500 and we go with 100, then at least we'll help cover some of our costs of that office. Will that work?
Yeah, that's
2,500
2,500 and then 100?
and 100. The flat fee. Are you gonna go with the $50 over?
Well, that's up to you. Part of what we were trying to do is allow people that were not building a big house to not spend as much money.
Well, we're doing that.
Well, then you leave the additional for people that are building large houses.
I'll just say a flat fee, though.
Okay, well then just say a flat fee of $100.
And no, I mean,
Eliminate the square footage.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Be
Okay.
fair to everybody. I mean, it,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
Okay,
just
so
a-
eliminate
just
the
a flat
square
fee, and that just,
and $100.
okay.
Okay, eliminate the square footage.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's only on the residential,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
right? And leave the
The
And
commercial.
everything
commercial the same, okay.
Okay, can I get a motion on that?
so move.
Commissioner Overstreet, Commissioner Purvis, any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 18, review and consider any necessary revision to the rules of procedure, conduct, and decorum at meetings of the Polk County Commissioners Court to comply with statutory changes. We included a copy of the existing rules and public participation. With the minimum revisions, which are the ones that were redlined in there. Because basically the change is that if people wish to address the court during public comment, they can, whether or not it's related to an agenda item or not. And so we also changed our form so that if they do indicate that it's an agenda item, then we will know that. But the other thing that came out of this legislation, out of these statutory changes, was that we can regulate people that get up and are just basically discussing other entities. You know, like we had an incident where a gentleman got up and was just slamming TxDOT. Well, we have no jurisdiction or authority, and so we can ask them not, you know what I'm saying, to cease the discussion and go to the correct agency. So if there are any modifications that you all would like to make, we basically did the minimum of what Jim Allison recommended, or the TAC recommended, and we said to a maximum of 3 minutes instead of 5. And then in the event that more than 10 members of the public would wish to address the same agenda item, then only those, the original ones would be, they would have to remain within the allotted 30-minute time. Is there anything else that you all would like to change on this?
It don't really matter whether we change or not. State told us what to do.
Yep, pretty much.
Yep.
They told us what to do.
So move.
Commissioner Purvis.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Overstreet. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, discuss possible creation of a Veterans Treatment Court in Polk County. Mr. Hahn.
Madam Judge and Commissioners, as you know, this is a topic that has been contemplated for the last couple of years, and I think in our discussions with the relevant stakeholders, we're to the point now where we're going to be asking the court for approval for the creation of a regional Veterans Treatment Court program that will encompass Polk, San Jacinto, and Trinity counties. A little bit of history on this. This came up a couple of years ago under a different state Veterans Treatment Court coordinator. The plan was pitched to our county as limited exclusively to Polk County, and I think part of the hang-up in, in getting the matter approved and really having any traction at that point in time was concern over whether the numbers in Polk County were such that it would justify the creation of a program for just our county. Late last year or early this year, they had a change in the personnel in that office that works under Governor Abbott. Erin McGann is now the State Veterans Treatment Court Coordinator. She reached out to me in either late 2018 or early part of this year and asked if there would be any interest in renewing the discussion for our county, creating a Veterans Treatment Court program. At that time, I expressed to her again kind of what our concerns were about whether our numbers in Polk County were adequate to justify exclusively creating a program. And she pitched to me the idea of expanding the program to a regional court program, which the Veterans Treatment Court statute specifically authorizes. And the more we talked about it, the more it became apparent and logical that we expand the program to our other two counties that are currently included in the 411th and 258 district courts, which is also the 3 counties that are served by the Community Supervision Department as well. So we met early this year with first local stakeholders and Ms. McGann from the Governor's Office, who was very encouraging, very informative in terms of available grant funding that could be used to fund such a program. And based upon those discussions, we reached out to the district attorneys in San Jacinto and Trinity counties. We had a subsequent meeting toward the beginning of the summer, and they were enthusiastically supportive of participating in the program as well. Judge Kitchens, the 258th district judge, has also expressed a very enthusiastic interest in the program and a willingness to have oversight authority with respect to the establishment of that program. I will tell you, since we began the discussion again this year publicly, we have had nothing but 100% support from our veterans community, both American Legion and VFW here in Polk County, and a lot of people that are wanting to get involved as mentors in support of the program. Where we are at the moment, and let me digress for just a moment. We still do not know, either in Polk County or in the other 2 counties, how many veterans are being missed in our criminal prosecutions. There is a process by which the jail staff can vet people who are incarcerated in jail to see if they have a service armed forces related history. The problem is a lot of these veterans are falling through the cracks before we get the cases in our office, and the primary reason for that is these individuals, particularly on our misdemeanor cases, are being arrested. For example, on a DWI case, they bond out either that day or the next day, and they are not in jail. Nobody is able to watch them attentively to see if they would be good candidates for participation in a Veterans Treatment Court program. So consequently, the only people that we are identifying now as potential candidates are it's being done on a purely anecdotal basis. If the defense attorney brings it to our attention, or the offender themselves brings it to our attention that they are veterans, then we can potentially identify them as a person who might benefit from some type of Veterans Treatment Court services. Best estimate, and this is a very rough estimate, is on all 3 counties we would be looking at potentially 50 to 70 participants a year that might be good candidates to participate in the program. Keep in mind, participation in the program will be totally voluntary. It will have to be something that the veterans that are candidates for the program will have to want to participate in and agree to participate in. The reward for them in terms of successfully completing the program would be the possibility of not having a conviction on their record, and the possibility of having a criminal charge expunged, which gives them a better opportunity to reintegrate into society without having some sort of criminal history that they're carrying along with them. There's no doubt that there are veterans that would be good candidates both in Polk County and in the other 2 counties as well. We are continuing occasionally to see people who come back from either Afghanistan or Iraq that pick up DWIs, possession of marijuana cases, family violence assault cases, and we would love the opportunity to vet these people to see if there is some service-related or combat-related explanation for their entry into the criminal justice system, and if there is, reach out and access the services that would be available to them through the VA, potentially Burke Center, and give them a more exclusive rehabilitative effort here locally through the Community Supervision Department. What we are looking at this point at doing, subject to your approval of us participating in the program and the Commissioner's courts for those other 2 counties, is beginning the process with the assistance of Jessica and Judge Murphy's office of applying for grant funding, both from the state and the federal grant sources that would be available for the creation of this type of program. To create 2 positions. Right now we're looking at creating a Veterans Treatment Court Coordinator's position that would work under the supervision, most likely of Judge Kitchen's office, to, on a daily basis, run these jail inmate population list and really be very proactive in identifying people that are arrested that would be potential candidates for participation in the Veterans Treatment Court program. The second position would be staff in the probation department. It would constitute a probation officer that would be exclusively assigned to the supervision of veterans in that program in all 3 counties. And we've had discussions with Teresa Milner, the director of the probation department, who's embraced the idea as well. Nevertheless, as a prerequisite to beginning to apply for these grants, we are required to approach you and the Commissioners Court in the other 2 counties to allow authorization by statute for us to create the program and begin applying for grants. So in summary, that's what the plan is at this point. Be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Wouldn't there also have to be a social services coordinator or someone that's monitoring? As I recall, wasn't that one part of it, Melissa, last time in 2016 that there needed to be a social services coordinator also? That was monitoring the veterans, you know, making sure that they went to AA meetings or that they went to whatever support services were required.
I would expect the person in the probation department would be able to deal with those responsibilities.
Okay.
And the administrator's position would deal with scheduling, court appearances, things of that nature as well. So, and also the administrator of the program, the court administrator, I would envision being the person tasked with looking at those jail arrest logs and seeing
Keeping up with that.
if people are qualified to participate in the program. So, but I certainly think it's something that's worth support. Again, the response that we've had from the veterans community here locally, at least, has just been, you know, I can't tell you how many calls I've had for people wanting to become involved, to support the program, to participate as mentors. You know, there's a lot of support for it, and I certainly think we owe it to our veterans to do that. You should have a grant, a resolution for your consideration, whether you are prepared to vote on that today or at the next meeting. I think we need to move forward pretty quickly.
Did we have a resolution?
On that.
We haven't seen a resolution.
Okay. I'll get you one.
Yeah, there was a lot of interest when we originally started discussing it in 2016. Judge Brown, did you have something you would like to tell the court?
Well,
Judge Brown was involved along with
back in
Mr. Hunt.
2016, if I'm remembering right, we were talking about a regional department of the 3 counties.
Or a county.
Or the county or the 3 counties, and numbers did not justify just Polk County. But we ran into problems with transportation. We ran into problems of who's going to provide services and all that. We were in the process of working some of those problems out, and the program faded. We had people from the VA that actually initiated it. They came, they gave us presentations of what services they had available, what they would do, how they could do it, how we could communicate electronically with the various people, so to get around some of the transportation problems. We were in the process of putting a proposal basically together. There's an awful lot of nuts and bolts that need to be done to make a multi-county regional process work. All the judges are in favor of having this program, but we need to have a plan. In the words of one of the other district attorneys that I talked to last week, this seems a little premature. We need to be looking at other places and see how they do it first. We need to contact the VA again and see if they are willing to provide what they were talking about providing the first time around. Now that we've got everybody on board, we need something we need to pursue. But we need to have a plan before we can even stand a chance of getting a grant. We got to tell them what we're planning on doing with the money.
So are you willing to be part of regrouping and going forward?
Sure, we all
As
are.
recommended by the district?
I've talked to all the judges. I can speak for the probation department because I'm head of the board of judges that runs the probation department.
Okay.
We have talked at length about that. Not a problem there. Everybody's on board. But
Okay.
we need to get a plan together before we start.
Yeah, we need to discuss with all the other judges and everybody else. Okay, very well. Anybody have any objections, questions?
I we should move forward with it.
Okay, then we will move forward.
I think the first thing needs to happen, we need to contact the VA again.
Okay. Well, Mr. Hahn and I will kind of sit down and kind of figure out some of the logistics, and then we can move forward from there.
Our main concern is as these grant cycles begin to
Yes, sir.
come up, we need to be prepared to move forward.
Yes, sir.
We have obtained information from both Collin County and Montgomery County in regard to the operation of their Veterans Court programs, the criteria for entry into the program, the services they will be provided under the program. We have templates already prepared that have been submitted to the district attorneys in both the other two
Okay, well
counties,
then
and they're working on it. So
We will figure out the logistics and include the other judges and try to get it going.
So, but at some point, we'll be asking you in the not-too-distant future for a resolution, which is a statutory
And
requirement.
that's fine. And that's fine. The resolution we can do immediately.
Okay.
So we
You
can
wanna
put
us
that on the agenda for next court
time?
meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect. We'll share that with you beforehand.
So we're not gonna vote on this today?
We don't have it.
We don't have a
Yeah,
resolution to
we don't
vote on,
have
so,
a
okay.
resolution.
We'll
So,
get you one.
so next agenda, we'll make sure it's on there and we'll remind the DA's office to send us whatever you have. Thank you. Okay, let's skip 20 and go to 21. We have an addendum. Consider any and all necessary action to close portion of Harbor Drive in Indian Hill Estates subdivision. We received a copy of the petition to abandon the public road, along with an opinion letter from Mr. Coleman, and also an affidavit from the only other landowner affected, stating that they did not have a problem with that. And this is in precinct 1.
Yeah, I think everything's in order. We've run it to the DA's office, and there's only 2 landowners, and they both agreed to it, that are on each side of the road. It's just a small portion, the tail end, about 80 foot, they just want it cut off, and so I'll make that motion.
Yeah, because it meets all the criteria, there's no need for a hearing or anything. So it comes as a motion from Commissioner Willis, second Commissioner Overstreet. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 20, discussion of the 2020 budget development. Does anybody want a break? Nope. Okay, you have your preliminary information, your draft budget. And Marcia said that y'all used to do a lot on that screen in terms of budget development, so we're gonna go ahead and put some of the information up there also. Okay, if you'll get your budget document, we will go through it, starting on page 1. At this time, these are the numbers that we've received from the tax assessor collector. These are the tax revenue calculations that we have received. At this time, you will notice that the public railroad rolling stock has not been certified by the comptroller yet, but as soon as we have that information, we will get it to you. So this is also based on 96% collection rate, which is historically what we have done. If you go down to the bottom of page 1, basically if you look at it, our debt service fund rate, because we added, because of the amount of money that we did on our capital projections for last year, our debt service rate has gone up a little bit, our fund rate has gone up a little bit. We did this based on maintaining the same rate for road and bridge, the same funding rate for road and bridge, which if we accept this tax revenue calculations and don't make any changes, will generate over $225,000 for road and bridge alone. Okay, page 2. Okay, page 2 is our tax rate history. Okay, that's your one ahead of me. Okay, never mind. Okay, let's look at that one. So if you look at this, which page is that on ours? Okay.
It's on that page, it's just.
Okay, just broken down. Okay, if you look at our annual debt service tax rate, that is a 10-year history of our debt, and you'll see that we've been ticking down. 10 years ago, the amount that was on the debt service tax rate was 0.1461, and we got down to 0.1006, and now we're at 0.1017. So that's our annual debt service tax rate. The debt service has to come out first before anything else. So then we broke it down to road and bridge and the general fund rate. Okay, page 2, you have the same thing with our tax rate history, the full explanation. And obviously, if your debt rate increases, well then it has to come out of M&O. Your maintenance and operations has to decrease. So, and then you have the tax notes issued at the bottom of that tax rate history. If you look at it, you have the tax notes that were issued. And so, the beginning in 2015, we issued a little over $1 million. In 2016, we issued $145,000. 2017, we issued 0, and that's when we took the IH monies and deleted our debt. And then 2018, $995,000, and then 2019, this past year, $1,007,500. Our original projection was lower than that, but there was that's where some of the budget estimates were incorrect, and so we had to go up. And also we had some other things that got added on. So, okay, any questions on that part right now? Okay, if you look up there, that kind of shows you just a graph of kind of how our debt rate is vacillating. Okay, if you go to page 3, that's where your debt schedule is. The key ones always that we get asked about is when is the judicial center going to drop off, and when is our jail expansion going to drop off. And so the judicial center, which were the bonds that we actually renegotiated for a lower rate, those will drop off in 2023, and the jail expansion will drop off in 2027. Everything else is just, standard debts that we have incurred. And so that takes us to page 4, which is the graph that's up there right now, showing our debt issuance. Now, fortunately, what happens is that James Gilley is able to level out our debt to where we're not vacillating with our payments also. So if you look at your debt schedule, you can see there at the bottom the subtotals, principal and interest, and then your totals with principal and interest on the bottom of page 3. And so it gives you the budget debt requirement. So if you look at the budget debt requirement, it's ticking down, but you kind of even it out so that so that your payments are not vacillating following your debt. Okay, page 5 is the road and bridge portion of debt. As of October 1 of 2018, approximately $89,000 for road and bridge precinct 1, a little over $107,000 for road and bridge 2, 0 for road and bridge 3, and a little over $289,000 for road and bridge 4. And so that's basically all the debt covered. And then the next page, page 6, again utilizing the 0.1471 road and bridge tax rate, which was what we've been trying to consistently do. Then you can see at the bottom that at the current rate of 0.1471 for the road and bridge ratio, then it reflects an increase of a little over $226,000 for the 4 road and bridge precincts. Any questions so far? Okay, let's get into the budget comparison report. If you will, most of the first few pages are pretty standard. If you will go to page 11, I'm basically going to put out, show you some of the increases so that you'll know, or some of the changes so that you will know how they occurred. On page 11, on the county clerks, you will notice that there was an increase in election workers, and that's because the court agreed to and approved to increase the amount paid to the election workers, and she's expecting a large turnout for this upcoming election. That's right. Okay, general operations, communications expense. You'll notice that that was an increase. That's due to an increase in cost, and actually we have got to modify that because at this point we are a little less than $20,000 over the original budget, and that was due to changes from our vendors that now have to be reflected in the budget. Okay, on the next page, page 12. The auditors, county auditors department, they are requesting an internal auditor. And now we have incorporated probation into this department. For a long time, our auditors have actually done, have been asked by the district judges, and the state approves of this practice. They've been paid to actually do some of the probation department billing and payments. And so what we've done is they will roll that money into the county, because otherwise it appears that they're getting paid twice, and we want to eliminate that. So it will get rolled into the county, into their salaries, and probation will pay the county back. And then plus an additional, that would be one additional person added to that office.
We'll get another person. We need to meet statutory requirements.
There you go.
Hire somebody to meet requirements.
Okay, if you flip the page to page 14, if you will recall, the volunteer firemen, all of the fire chiefs had gotten together before, and they came up with a formula for us to follow. And what we did at that time is we asked that every department have a base of 6,000, and that was to ensure that the smaller volunteer fire departments had some monies that nobody went below because of the formula that was developed. And so what we would like to do is we would like to add some money to that, because those are services that we're highly dependent on, and increase the base amount for everybody to 8,000 from 6,000, and then let the formula work out the rest of it. And then the next one, Burke Center, where all other, and it starts with Burke Center, and all other, for now, we have put some money in there, and we've called it inmate mental health assessment. This was a legislative change. We're going to meet with Melanie Taylor, or I'm going to meet with Melanie Taylor to see what possibilities there are for evaluation, because we don't know exactly what the legislature, how exactly the legislature wants that done. But I can tell you that mental health assessment is not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. And so for now, we place it right there just because we don't know where to put it. If that's going to be a contract with Burke, then we'll put it in the Burke line item. If that's a contract that that the sheriff's department and jail can negotiate in terms of some of their current vendors, then we will put it there. So that potentially would get moved around. We just don't know how the legislature wants us to approach that at this time. On the next page, page 15, we increased the county landscaping budget because we added the Senior Citizen Center to their rotation. And then on emergency response, you'll notice a line item got added. That is a non-amendable, and it's a rollover recommendation from TDEM, the Texas Department of Emergency Management, for immediate action, so that if there's some kind of emergency situation where we have to do something to protect our citizens, then what they're suggesting is that you have that in there kind of as a reserve. But it is not.
Where's this at?
At the very bottom of emergency management, where it says emergency response.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
And that could also be applied or utilized if our volunteer fire departments, you know what I'm saying, if there's some kind of emergency response
Catastrophic,
that we
yeah.
absolutely must stop the bleeding is what it amounts to. And so that cannot be moved around or utilized any other manner. Okay, 16 and 17 are either legislative changes or not big changes. We, in JP2 on page 18, she is requesting a part-time person. And at this time, the amount of activity in her office and fines and fees that are being collected in that office would warrant her getting more assistance. So that's another request for added personnel. Okay, page 20. If you look at the very top, capital trial expenses, you'll notice that went down. That's always a nice thing. And that's because the state increased their contribution to those contracts and decreased our contribution. So it went down by a little over $7,800. Okay, if you go to the very bottom of page 21, pretrial services, we moved that position. If you will recall, the court moved that position and made it a clerk at county court at law, but we left the expenditures that are related to pretrial services. So the expenditures that were related to pretrial services were left there, which was things like the urine analysis and different things that are actual duties of pretrial services. On the jail, on page 22, the jail, if you would look at transport, prisoner transport, that has doubled. That's because they're limited in the vendors that are available to them, and so it went from 11,000 to 22,000. Okay, not much until you get to page 27. Page 27, if you look up at the very top of 27, that's our ag extension. And they reduced their vehicle maintenance because actually they are supposed to be one of the recipients of a 2019 vehicle, all of which have not come in. Okay, next page, page 28, is where we put the fire marshal information. We also gave you all a copy of what we currently have listed as the fire marshal's job description. Was that just on their?
It was the extra packets that were set up.
Oh, okay, okay. So, and basically what we did, because we wanted to make sure that we had a reasonable estimate of cost, that we weren't just saying, oh yeah, let's add a fire marshal, you know, at X salary. So we also included the salary schedule in there for you to look at. And so this is a reasonable estimate of cost as best we can tell, which also includes, he would have to have a vehicle, he would have to have travel training, furnished transportation. So in essence, what we did is we took the fire marshal information, placed it in here, and we based it off of environmental enforcement.
Somebody's going to convince me why we need a fire marshal.
And that's fine.
That's what they
We're
want
gonna
to
put it on the
convince
next
me.
agenda for voting.
All the fire chiefs, they're wanting one back
Why?
to investigate these fires that are happening.
Y'all gonna have to convince me why when the state does it, the insurance companies do it.
But the state might show up 4 days later and the evidence has done been disturbed and stuff like that on some of these fires.
How many of these fires do we have?
Quite a few.
How much did they cost the people of Polk County?
What?
The fire?
Nothing right now.
Okay.
We don't have a fire marshal.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, but how much? I'm trying to figure out why we need it. I mean, you know, why spend
The explanation that we had gotten was that
on a fire marshal? And the insurance company, if it's a problem, the insurance company, they're gonna send them an investigator.
Well, it's more to it than just investigating. Like they do a commercial building and you go out there and they don't have enough exits and things like that. It's looking after those commercial side of those buildings. Life Safety 101 on this stuff is what it amounts to. It's not just investigating fires. There's a whole different area of that stuff in it too. The way if it's operated like it was in the past. Exits, lighting, emergency lighting.
It was in the past, we sure don't need it.
Well, I'm just saying that the way it was supposed to have been done is on commercial buildings and things like that, out in the unincorporated areas. You've got to have adequate exits, adequate emergency lighting, things like that.
Who's doing it now?
Nobody.
Nobody.
See, there's a few chiefs thought we didn't need one. Now they're all wanting one back now.
I don't know that they're 100% consensus.
They're not, but there's some ones that were totally against it before back requesting that we get a fire marshal because they're not getting any assistance on whenever they need, like the state. I mean, they might be 4 days out or 5 days out. And if it's an arson case or something like that and it rains or something, none of the evidence is collected.
And the people, the owner of the building is gonna be out something if, you know, because the insurance isn't gonna pay 100%. You are still gonna have a deductible of some kind. This is just up for consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
We can certainly ask Jay Stutz or, you know, one of the fire chiefs to come discuss it more. That's why we wanted you to have a job description, so that you could see. Chief, I saw you over there nodding. Do you have something you would like to say to the fire marshal on this issue?
I mean, it certainly is not the sheriff's office business, but the issue that we have, and along with the fire chiefs, is that when we have these fires where there's loss of life, there's loss of property or property damage, I don't have any of my detectives who are trained in or have the certificates that are needed to be able to actually say cause of origin, or if that was a flammable combustible material substance that was used. And these are the things that, if weather is the issue, whether it be rain or having someone that sits out and watches this until fire marshal is able to get there. At least if the state is able to get there, at least if we had a fire marshal, there's so many other things that he could do. He could show up on the fire immediately, just like we show up. He can go ahead and take control of the scene. Then,
Maybe we need to train one of y'all's deputies.
when you start looking at the training and the certificates that come along with that, it is. It's expensive. It's costly. But I think a county the size of Polk County really needs to be able to have one, because there's so much more. There's training that officer could be able to do. There's community education that officer could be able to do, going out to the schools, going out to the POAs. There's so much more that can be done that in the past, again, that wasn't done. I think this county really needs a fire marshal, and there are things that officer can do to be able to help when it comes along with doing the fires, investigation, the training, and the community awareness.
Get a list of those fires, stuff that would have been affected.
Sure,
or needed
sure.
to be.
No, absolutely, will. Okay, so number of fires
That would
for the last 5 to 10 years?
Need to involve.
Okay. Well, and I think also part of it too with the fire marshal is the preventive things. Making sure that there are enough exits, enough adequate lighting, stuff like that, if something should occur in a commercial building.
Have we had a lot of requests for commercial permits in the last few years?
Not a whole lot, no, sir.
The
Yeah,
only
we can do that too.
comment that I've heard was that when they had the big fire out at Indian Hills, that it took a long time for the state to send somebody in, when in fact the fire was on Saturday and the state fire marshal was here on Monday. So that argument didn't wash on that particular fire, and probably a lot of others too. And it's going to be one of those things where, yeah, we'd love to create all these positions. What can we afford and what can we do without? If we can survive without it, then we certainly need to take a close look at it.
And that's fine.
Yeah, we look at it.
Okay, then we will put it on there as an agenda item so that it's not, just stuck in the budget, and ask for someone to come speak to the court. Okay, and we have a request for the number of fires in the last 5 to 10 years and the number of permits on commercial buildings. Are there any other requests, y'all, of information you want us to get for you?
Well, number of fires that
That would
require,
involve the
Amount of
fire
loss?
marshal.
that require the
fire
fire
marshal.
marshal or the state to come in.
Well, they cover multifamily dwellings, things like that, apartments,
Yep.
things like that,
They also
along
cover
with
foster
commercial.
care houses.
Foster homes, they have to go in and inspect those, different things like that. It's more to it than just fire,
Nursing homes.
yeah.
Okay, we will have that information for you next time. Page 29, as you will recall in the last meeting, Ms. Burks asked us to transfer her vehicle out of her department, and they will just use their personal vehicles, so we transferred the money from furnished transportation to travel and training. It doesn't show on there, but that is what we will do. At this point, she has $1,500 in furnished transportation, and so we will move that down to travel training, but it does not impact the budget request as she listed it. On page 30, we've had a decrease in our hot hotel motel tax monies, and we will, and I think part of that is probably Odyssey, since it kept everybody jumping over there. And so the treasurer and I will sit down and kind of look over that and see what we're missing, or if we're missing somebody. Is that okay, Terry? Okay, on 30, those are your JP Court technology fees and expenses. Page 31 through 38 are road and bridge. So we'll let you all review those at your leisure. Let us know if there's anything incorrect. And then page 40. At the very top, you have travel and training and the security expenses. The security expenses that were added for the judicial are now included in the security package that the court requested that we look into a couple of months ago. And then if you go further down, environmental service, the Santec contract payments, you'll notice that they have gone down. So when we went back and looked to see what it was, the debris removal for Harvey had increased those payments, and so now they've gone back down. Okay, skipping on to page 42. if you look down at the district attorney hot check fund, those fees, those revenues are at $665. So we are making some adjustments in there because the cost for net data to operate that has been $8,645 per year. So obviously it's not paying off. The view only is $2,400, and we're going to leave view only intact for now because the hot check fund is now included in the Odyssey program, which is going to be implemented, which is our next round of implementation. And then aging, with Barbara's assistance, we went ahead and split out those departments depending on how the court chooses to move. So we left aging and social services, split them out, and so this is based on Barbara's recommendation. Page 45. Page 45, towards the very bottom, the transfer from general fund for our OPEB liability, which is our retiree health benefits trust. That's one of the things that we need to discuss, what kind of contribution the court would like to make. You have that information also provided to you, kind of a breakdown of what we had been doing in the past was averaging the two numbers, and that was how we came up with a $567,500, to try to get ourselves back up. And so we need to take a look at those numbers and see how the court would like, what direction the court would like to move on that. Okay, page 51. We can review the employee compensation. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will put all the requests for additional personnel on the next agenda, and we will separate out the fire marshal. Okay, or we'll do them all separately is what we'll do. Okay, we do want to remind everyone, with all the elected officials, that if they are interested in having a county phone, then they will be issued an iPhone 7, which is what the Sheriff's Department will be going with, and which is what we will get all our employees added. Okay, on the OPEB liability, if you back up a minute, if you'll look at the printout that we gave you on that, our current contribution is $567,500. I would like to go ahead and put in the $656, which is one of the recommendations where we did the average to try to decrease the amount of liability we had, and we'll just see what happens. If we need to reduce those numbers, then we will.
It was the sheet that I handed out right before.
You have a handout. Everybody see what I'm talking about?
Do the 4% on the proposed plan here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We had averaged out those numbers, but the actuarial, I remember we discussed this at the last Commissioners Court meeting, that Terry has done everything she can to find someone that can help us generate more interest, and our auditor was involved also. We sat down and talked to some of the bankers. We talked to James Gilley. We visited with everybody to see what we could do. And so we need to increase the contribution. And again, that's something that, because that's a chunk of change. We're talking about $80,000. Okay, The other thing that the court had asked us, and we will have the capital projections completed for you all. The court had asked for a countywide security for all the offices. And the sheriff's department has been pretty covered up with different incidents that have occurred in the community. So what we did was we went ahead and contacted LivCom and East Tech Security so we could get some recommendations and some estimates. And then we will give it to the SO and we can review some of the options and add it to our capital projection. The other thing that was not discussed during the budget, not brought to us during the budget discussions, was a jail camera system. And there was some discussion of that, but we don't have any estimates. And so we will need to have that prior to capital projections. Because currently at this time, we have multiple vehicles, so we will get an RFP out for those and additional equipment. Okay, so let's go to the next one with page 51, which shows you the number of employees. So if you look up on that sheet, you see the number of employees is listed on the right-hand side, and what has happened to compensation is listed on the left-hand side. Okay, so the increase in compensation over 10 years has been a little more than $4 million, but the number of employees is pretty plateaued. Okay, especially at this time. So if you go through and you look at your printout that you have in FY, and I know there's no such thing as a .46 employee, but that's because either people came or went, and we have lots of halves. Okay, so so if you look at fiscal year 2014, we showed basically 279 employees, and at that time our payroll was a little over 14 million. Okay, so then we pretty much held steady for 2015-2016, because if you will recall, that's when the court was trying to make sure that we eliminated all of our deficit and did a good job. And so the number of employees stayed pretty consistent, because in 2015 we had 283 employees, but that's when we asked them if somebody quits, retires, please don't replace them, so we can avoid firing anybody. So 2016 we had 278 employees, and there was basically a $50,000 difference in cost from 2015 to 2016. So then we implemented the salary survey and moved forward with that. So now in 2019 we had basically 288 employees, and our current employee compensation, all of it, is $16,574,988. So that's where we are right now. So that kind of gives you a visual of what is occurring. So if you go to page 52, what we did was we took and put a comparison, because what we need to discuss is how we wish to proceed in terms of compression. We knew, and all our employees were told, that this would be a 2-year process, possibly more. And basically the Sheriff's Department and Judicial and the jail got all their money in the first year. And so that was 106, more or less, employees. And so that left us with 128 employees in general fund and aging. So what we would like for the court to think about is going ahead. So let me kind of give you a history of the salary survey. First, we did the salary adjustments based on the recommendation, and everyone received at least a 2.5% increase. The highest, the maximum, was 16% increase. Then we did a compression. We did our first compression, and we went down to people that had 17 years experience with the county. Then our third step was we did the discretionary funding, where the sheriff got $80,000, the sheriff's department, for $80,000 for the sheriff's department, the jail, and judicial. And then we did a general fund and aging for approximately $47,000. So that was kind of the first compression. And then at that time, you all told us that that you would take care of Road and Bridge. So Road and Bridge was not included in the 47. At that time, we also discussed department heads, that the court said, no, they didn't, we didn't want to move forward anymore. We wanted to wait. So at this time, what I would like for the court to consider is doing an equitable compression in the general fund and Road and Bridge. If we do an equitable compression and we do a minimum of $40,000 for those departments that were in the general fund and in aging, then it would take about a little more than $40,000. If we include Road and Bridge, then we would need approximately $61,000, a little more than $61,000. And that would get us down to those people with 6 to 8 years of experience with the county. But basically, we asked our staff to be patient, and that it would take more than 1 year. And so this would level the playing field, and we would be done with compression. So what that chart shows you is basically the with or without compression. Any questions on that?
So it'll take us to 2024 to get everybody?
What's that?
It'll take us till 2024 to get everybody through the compression?
No, sir. That's showing you one with compression and one without. And so my recommendation is that we go ahead and go through. If you look on 2019, see how there's a discrepancy between those two lines, the red and the blue, right? So the red and the blue shows you what the status is, right now, with and without compression. And so the total payroll budget, okay, the budget without compression, without adding any monies to the other departments, right, to level the playing field, then that's the red.
Yep.
Okay, and so then the gap just gets wider and wider and wider again, and we're going to be right back where we started from. Whereas if we go ahead and finish the compression that was recommended by the computer model, right? Finish the compression, then from this point forward, we can either move to put additional merit monies into departments so that then each department can decide who gets what, right? Or we can start looking at COLA. What we did, just for purposes of looking at it, is when we did the projection, obviously for 2021, we don't know what the projection would be.
Well, I thought you was for, but you said 61,000. But that's more than 61,000 difference in 2020.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm saying. We would have to have a minimum of the 61,000 to just do compression down to the 6 or 8 year of experience. Okay. We could do more. I just need to know how the court wishes to proceed. If you look at it, the sheriff's department is basically 1/3 of our employees, a little more than 1/3 of our employees. And so the minimum to get it equitable would be the 40 or 61. And so what we did on this budget comparison, when you see the way it increases, we had to decide, okay, how would it compare? So we did it with a 2.5% increase right? But that's assuming that the money's available and so forth and so
Okay.
on, right? That's assuming the money's available. We just did it that way so that you could see the difference in what occurs as time goes on. Right? Then the gap gets wider. And it may be less, you know, there may be years when, we all know that historically if there's no money, then we're not gonna give a COLA, right? I'm just trying to get it all evened out.
Yes, ma'am.
So that from this point forward, we're all moving at the same rate and the same pace. So that's things that will need to be discussed or decided or whatever. Okay, page 53 and 54 was basically information that you all requested pertaining to the number of vehicles that the county owns at this time. And so at this time, the county clerk has 1, district attorney has 5, IT has 3, maintenance has 13, constable precinct 1 has 5, constable precinct 2 has 3, constable precinct 3 has 2, constable precinct 4 has 1, the sheriff's department has 54, the jail has 9, aging has 4, extension has 1, permits has 1, emergency management has 2, and environmental enforcement has 1. The asterisks on this information, just for you, is that they are requesting to replace some of those vehicles, and so we put asterisks next to those because that would be this current budget year. And the yellow ones are the ones that were up for replacement or to be replaced at auction for 2019, which was the previous budget year. Okay, any questions, instructions, things you would like for us to include next time, other than the fire marshal? Questions, commissioners?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, don't forget that next one is the big budget workshop, so there will have to be some decisions made, which includes the elected officials and salaries, expenses, allowances, etc. Okay, thank you all. Motion to adjourn, Commissioner Overstreet. 12:02. 12:02. Good.